Hey, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So glad to be here with all of you. Thank you for your patience. It's been a delay, but we're starting. I'm opening up my unnamed diet beverage and pouring it into my glass with ice. And we are going to have an afternoon chat here. So thank you for your patience, everybody. I've been streaming a lot lately, 2 a day, but we're getting it done. We're getting it done. So we're going to talk about DPRK solidarity with Palestine. Should be a great afternoon chat.
The American century. I say that the century on which we are entering can be and must be the century of the common man.
A radical redistribution of economic power.
I mean, we know that racism is just a byproduct of capitalism. Everything would be all right if everything was put back in the hands of the people.
We need a government that will make sure Americans are taken care of and organize the economy to serve the people, not the profits of a wealthy few.
We now have the techniques and the resources to get rid of poverty.
We got to start getting out there with the people.
Get out of the movement and get to the masses.
We need a government of action.
Welcome, everybody. I am so glad to be here with all of you this afternoon. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notifications bell. And the way we do things here on these streams is, first of all, I always sip my unnamed diet beverage. Not always. I tend to do it not late at night because the caffeine keeps me up. But then the way this generally works is I answer people's super chat, rumble rant, or Rockfin tip questions in the second half of the show. So if there's something you want me to talk about in the second half of the show, shoot me a rumble rant, a super chat, Rockfin tip, and I will put you on the list. And in the second half of our program, I will answer it to the best of my ability. I will give you an answer in the second half of the program. It may not be the answer that you're looking for, but I will do my best to give you an answer in the second half of our show. First part of the show is me giving opening remarks about whatever is on my mind. Second part of the show is a roll call where we find out who's on the other side of the camera, who's watching. I call you all out as I see you, names and locations. We give everyone their due. We let the world know who our audience is. And third, then I answer questions for the rest of the show. So if you got something you want me to talk about, by all means, send a super chat. So I was a little bit delayed. I was doing my job. I was actually reporting on RT about the horrendous hate crime that just happened in Chicago. RT, we're having round the clock, 24/7 coverage of the horrendous situation in Gaza, the possibility of an Israeli invasion. Now Biden is even calling on Netanyahu not to invade Gaza, and we're keeping an eye on that situation. But amid all that coverage, I thought today would be a great day to talk about a topic that is very relevant in what is taking place right now. And if you don't think it's relevant, if you think this is just a historical footnote, take note of this interaction that happened at the U.S. State Department 3 days ago.
Thanks, John. The oil sales coming out of Iran have increased over the last year. Is the U.S. looking at what it can do with the existing oil sanctions to decrease the amount of barrels coming out of Iran?
Without getting into specifics, I can tell you that we are constantly reviewing our regime sanctions against Iran, and we will continue to do that.
Should we expect some announcement or
That's as far as I'm going to go today.
Of those sanctions?
That's as far as I'm going to go today.
Yeah, Jay. Thank you, Colleen, and thank you, John. I'm here. Okay,
I know, I see you.
I have two questions for you. And the first question,
This is a reporter from South Korea, mind you.
regarding arms trade between Hamas and North Korea. Hamas used the North Korean rockets to attack Israel. Can you tell us about the current situation where North Korea is providing weapons to Hamas? And second question, how will the Middle East crisis affect United States security strategy on the Korean Peninsula?
I I can't confirm the reports about the rockets. I'm happy to take that question and see if we have more information on it. I just don't have that today. And as for how what's going on in the Middle East is going to affect our view of the security environment on the peninsula, or quite frankly anywhere else in the world, we're a big enough, strong enough nation. And we've got global responsibilities to look after our national security interests anywhere and everywhere. We're still also supporting Ukraine in their fight against Russia. We're still doing an amazing amount of work in the Indo-Pacific to shore up our alliances and our partnerships and to try to increase stability, security, and prosperity throughout the region. So we're not worried about our ability to do all those things.
Good, Ted.
So it appears, now we don't know if this is true or not. He couldn't confirm it. The State Department wouldn't confirm it. But it appears that one of the missiles that Hamas fired at Israel was made in North Korea. Now, we shouldn't be surprised by this, I don't think, because there is a long history of solidarity between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Palestinian people. There's a very long history. And in fact, I will put here on the screen, Kim Il-sung, the Korean people will continue to resolutely support the valiant struggle of the Palestinian people for liberating their fatherland and the struggle of the entire Arab people against Zionism and imperialist aggression, and will always remain a close comrade in arms of the Arab people in their common struggle against the common enemy. And this goes back for many decades. Kim Il-sung met with Yasser Arafat, but it actually goes deeper than that. I am going to show you a video here. It is much more than simply a matter of international solidarity. We know the DPRK has provided weaponry to the Palestinians in the past, guns and weaponry for them to fight against Israel. We know that the DPRK has stood in solidarity, condemned Israel at the United Nations and elsewhere, but it goes even deeper than that, right? This is a video. This is a video that I think many people will be surprised by. But this is a true video about the relationship that Kim Jong-il had. He basically had a Palestinian goddaughter. It says foster daughter in the translation. That's a little bit of a mistranslation, but it appears that Kim Jong-il was basically the godfather of a Palestinian child. Here's the report.
Great man and 진달래. The Daily 노동신문 on March the 1st, 주체 102 or 2013, carried the news that the respected Kim Jong-un sent gifts to 진달래 Safarini, president of the 진달래 Children's Foundation. Then, who is 진달래 Safarini? More than 30 years ago, Mustafa Safarini, Palestinian ambassador to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and his wife wrote a letter of thanks to the great leader Kim Jong-il. They said in the letter that they agonized over a childless life for 10 years, but got a pretty daughter at the Pyongyang Maternity Hospital built under the guidance and care of Kim Jong-il. They earnestly requested him to name their daughter according to the Palestinian custom of asking the most learned and respected person to name the newborn baby from olden times.
So did you hear that? The Palestinians that were the ambassadors to North Korea, they have a tradition in the Palestinian culture of asking the most respected and learned elder to name the child. And so they asked Kim Jong-il, the leader of People's Korea, to name their daughter when she was born. Keep in mind, Kim Jong-il was not at this point the leader of DPRK yet. This is in 1984, before the death of Kim Il-sung. So this is interesting. This woman, it was Kim Jong-il who picked her name because the Palestinians considered. The Palestinian ambassador considered him to be the most learned elder in the country, and her name was picked by Kim Jong-il.
Kim Jong-il was very pleased with the happy event of Mustafa's family and named their daughter Jindale, or Azalea. And he
named her Azalea after a flower. He named her, the Korean word for the flower, the azalea flower, is Jindale. And so this girl who was born in 1984, about 3 years older than I am, she was named by Kim Jong-il, and they named her Jindale, which means azalea, after a beautiful flower in Korean.
Sent gifts on her birthdays. To Jindale, he was a tender-hearted father rather than the leader of a country. So, when she heard the sad news of his demise in December 100 or 2011, she shed bitter tears with regret that she could not show him her grown-up self. She made a firm resolve to do more good things for friendship between the two countries as he had wished. Jindale wrote a letter to Kim Jong-un in February 2013. In the letter, she expressed boundless thanks to him for having given warm encouragement and support to establish the Jindale Children's Foundation and courteously asked him to bless her wedding. Kim Jong-un read her letter and sent congratulations, wishing that she would do better things for friendship between the...
That's her and her father. That's her father, the Palestinian ambassador to North Korea, and that's Jindale wearing a traditional Korean gown. And she established a charity in honor of her godfather, Kim Jong-il, the Jindale Foundation for Children, to aid Palestinian children in honor of her godfather, Kim Jong-il, after he died in 2013.
The DPRK and Palestine, and thus add eternal brilliance to her name given by Kim Jong-il. And he sent precious gifts such as wedding dress and dispatched a delegation to celebrate her wedding ceremony. Son-guk, director of the Jindale Children's Foundation, says,
그때 제가 대표단 총원으로 진달래 결혼식에 갔댔는데 그 결혼식 전에 경야는 김정은 동지께서
I was a member of the delegation at that time. The gifts sent by the respected Kim Jong-un were conveyed before the wedding ceremony. The participants had never imagined that Kim Jong-un would send gifts and congratulations to Jindale, an ordinary young lady. They raised cheers and turned up their thumbs, saying in excitement, "Jindale is a lucky person. How can an ordinary woman be blessed by the leader of her country?" Jindale Safarini was moved to tears, feeling grateful to the great man for his blessing.
At her wedding, when she got married, Kim Jong-un sent a beautiful gift to her wedding and has helped her set up this beautiful charity. Now, North Korea is a country that's very isolated, right? It's very isolated economically. It's struggled, but yet even in their economic isolation, they are committed to helping the Palestinians, so much so that they worked with Jindale to set up a foundation to feed Palestinian children. Okay? Like, this is, you want to talk about solidarity. This may look like it's not a big deal. This may just look like some diplomatic bullshit. This is not some diplomatic bullshit. All right? This is her crying how moved she is that the leader of a country, a head of state, sent her a wedding gift and is helping her to set up a charity. A deeply poor country like North Korea that's surrounded and isolated is helping with what little they have to set up a charity to feed Palestinian children. This is heavy.
Blessing and for the meticulous love carried forward generation after generation. She made up her mind to work harder for the DPRK Palestine friendship.
Yeah, that is a story that you will never hear in mainstream media. They might make a big deal about the fact that North Korea gave them a missile, which, we not confirmed. So, I don't want to repeat that, right? If we don't know, the imperialists might use that to attack North Korea, and it may not actually be true. I mean, they have given them weapons over the years in the past, but we don't know if this new report that the South Korean press is running with, that one of the missiles that hit Israel came from North Korea. We don't know if that's true. But what we do know is true is that there is a deep, deep love between the Palestinian people and the people of North Korea. And there's a deep, deep love between those two people. So much so that there is a Palestinian woman who was named, has a Korean name after that was chosen for her by Kim Il-sung, and that there is a foundation, the Jindala Foundation for Children. I mean, that is amazing. So I thought that was worth sharing. Couple other things that might be relevant. Here's the song of Kim Il-sung in Arabic, right? This is in Arabic, a performance of the song of Kim Il-sung, translated into Arabic and performed by Palestinians. I'll put that on. The song of General Kim Il-sung. And that's Kim Il-sung with Yasser Arafat, the leader of the Palestinian resistance.
الوطني الخالد في الدنيا اسمه الحال جنرالنا اسمه الساطع جنرال الديمقراطية الجديدة برنامج 20 وحد كل الناس الربيع عاد يا شمال كوريا اسمه الحال جنرالنا اسمه الساطع جنرال
Yeah, so those are some important points on DPRK solidarity with Palestine. Now, one of the biggest YouTube channels that defends North Korea, they are very, very pro-Palestine. And this is like the Pyongyang YouTube channel that promotes a lot of the videos. And on that YouTube channel, they decided they made a YouTube video of a song by some Swedish Arabic Marxist-Leninists. And it was, it was a Swedish Arabic Marxist-Leninist group of musicians. And they came out with this Swedish song called Long Live Palestine, Crush Zionism. And they have the lyrics translated. So even though this song isn't related to North Korea exactly, even though I guess it's promoted on a North Korean YouTube channel, I guess that's why. But it's a Marxist-Leninist song. It's a Palestine song. And it has the translated lyrics on. So I'm going to play that.
Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Och vi har odlat jorden.
Och vi har odlat jorden.
Och vi har skördat vetet.
Och vi har skördat vetet.
Vi har plockat citronerna.
Och vi har plockat citronerna.
Och pressat oliverna.
Och pressat oliverna.
Och hela världen känner till vår jord.
Och hela världen känner till vår jord. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Och vi har kastat stenar på.
Och vi har kastat stenar på.
Soldater och poliser.
Soldater och poliser.
Och vi har skjutit raketer.
Och vi har skjutit raketer.
Mot våra fiender.
Mot våra fiender.
Och hela världen känner till vår kamp.
Och hela världen känner till vår kamp. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Och vi ska befria vårt land.
Och vi ska befria vårt land.
Från imperialismen.
Från imperialismen.
Och vi ska bygga upp vårt land.
Och vi ska bygga upp vårt land.
Till socialismen.
Till socialismen.
Och hela världen kommer att bevittna.
Och hela världen kommer att bevittna. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. 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 Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen. Leve Palestina och krossa sionismen.
Och vi har odlat jorden.
Och vi har odlat jorden.
Och vi har skördat vetet.
Och vi har skördat vetet.
Vi har plockat citronerna.
Och vi har plockat citronerna.
Och pressat oliverna.
Och pressat oliverna.
Och hela världen känner till vår jord.
Och hela världen känner till vår jord. Leve, leve, leve Palestina. Leve, leve, leve Palestina.
Yeah. Yeah. So the relationship between the Democratic People's Republic of Korea and the Palestinian resistance is long-standing. So I wouldn't be shocked if it turns out that it is true that this missile, one of the missiles the Palestinians fired, came from North Korea. Wouldn't surprise me one bit because of the long history of solidarity between the two countries. North Korea, a big chunk of their country is occupied by the U.S. imperialists, and they continue to resist. Well, the Palestinians are also occupied, and they continue to resist. And there's a long record of solidarity. And North Korea has a long history of solidarity with many, many different countries. Many different countries. I don't know if you've seen this, but I want to show this to people because it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful statues I have ever seen in my life. And it is in Senegal. right? This is the statue of Senegali independence, and it's deep on many, many levels. Let me just put it on here. It is a beautiful, beautiful monument to the independence of Senegal from the colonizers, right? When Senegal won its independence, and they built this beautiful monument. Look at it, right? This beautiful, beautiful monument was constructed, right? And it is just beautiful on so many levels. So first of all, right, it's celebrating the family, right? You have a strong father, you have a beautiful mother, wife, and then you have their baby, the next generation, and they're looking upward, and the baby is pointing toward the future. That is some beautiful socialist realist art. You know, this isn't somebody taking a shit on a canvas. This isn't Jackson Pollock. This is a beautiful, beautiful statue. And you want to talk about an epic statue of independence, right? A strong black African father, a strong black woman mother, a baby, you know, that they've just had, giving birth to the next generation, pointing toward the future. That is a damn beautiful statue. I absolutely love the statue. I don't think of all the statues I've seen in the world, I mean, this is up there. I mean, this is probably one of the greatest statues I've ever seen. Who built this? North Korea. They hired North Korea to go to Senegal and build their independence monument. And North Korea gave it as a gift to the people of Senegal to celebrate their independence. Now, that is just absolutely epic. And that is how committed North Korea is to solidarity with the people of the world against imperialism, right? And look how big it is. Look at those are people on the stairs in front of it, right? That's how big the damn thing is. I mean, it's just hulking. It's just a giant, beautiful work of art. You want to talk about art that inspires people. It's called the Monument of African Resistance, or Monument of African Renaissance. It's absolutely beautiful. And we know that Africa is the future of the world. What's happening with China, and what's happening with Niger and Mali and Gabon, and that Africa is moving in an anti-imperialist direction. Africa is moving toward development. Africa has beautiful and vast natural resources. And this monument that North Korea built in Africa is really, really important. And people can overlook it and complain about it and pretend they don't know about it. The fact that North Korea could build something like this, that tells you a lot about North Korea. Right? Now, we at the Center for Political Innovation, we are fully committed to the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula and solidarity with People's Korea. That doesn't mean that we think the North Korean system should be adopted here. No, Juche is a Korean form of socialism, right? And it's for the Korean people and their conditions. It is self-reliance. It is their ideology. However, we want the United States to remove its troops from South Korea. We want the people of North and South Korea to reunify. And we took that message to the White House. In March, we had a protest at the White House, and we actually rallied in front of the White House for peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. So I'm going to put that clip on because it's important. It's pretty important that we did this. And my hope is that peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula can continue, that what Trump started can finish. So I'm just going to show you that clip to remind you of that. Then I'm going to read you something that I recently wrote about North Korea. And I got a few other things to share with you.
Great moment, June 30th, 2019. The leader of People's Korea and the leader of the United States shook hands. They met, the first president ever to visit the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. We had Donald Trump trying to make peace with a country that is still technically at war with the United States. Donald Trump was trying to open the door to peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. There would be hope to bring the troops home from South Korea. There would be hope that there could be denuclearization. that North Korea wouldn't feel threatened anymore, that there could be no more bombs and weapons, and the people of Korea could reunify. And Donald Trump going to People's Korea was sabotaged. It was sabotaged by John Bolton and the neocons, the same forces that got us into Ukraine, the same forces that are escalating and pushing buttons against China and Taiwan on the Taiwan Strait, the same forces that want World War III sabotaged the peace process on the Korean Peninsula. We're here to say, finish what Trump started. We want peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. We want U.S. leaders and the leaders of People's Korea to sit down. We would like to see trade between the United States and People's Korea. We would like to see those railroads in South Korea that have been built. We'd like to see them in action and see the Korean people trading with each other. We don't want war. We don't want money wasted on international confrontations. And we also don't want a police state. And at the same time that the big bankers who control Joe Biden, the Silicon Valley monopolists and fascists, the same forces that control Joe Biden, are waging a war not just around the world, but against the American people. They are driving our country into poverty. Our trains are derailing. People are breathing in deadly chemicals. The water is not properly purified. Jobs are falling apart. Schools are falling apart. It's a nightmare. They have waged a war against us. And instead of rebuilding America, they're trying to move toward a low-wage police state. That's what they're doing here in the United States. They're trying to move toward a low-wage police state. We saw what happened, what's been revealed about January 6th. That was a setup. We saw that those people were led to do what they did for propaganda purposes. We call for an amnesty. We don't endorse what the people did, but they were enabled to do it and set up to do it by the American government. The FBI, the Secret Service, other agencies enabled what happened on January 6th to happen. Those folks were entrapped. And we say that until they're going to be honest with the public about what really happened on January 6th, there needs to be an amnesty for those who've been arrested. And the same goes for the Uhuru movement. A group of black revolutionaries, black activists, had guns pointed in their faces, drones flown into their homes. They were terrorized and accused of being Russian agents. Why? Because they were organizing for the rights of black people, organizing for the rights in their community, providing services that were not available in their community. They're waging a war against us. At the same time, they're waging a war against China, Russia, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, and any country that dares break out of their financial system. And it is our responsibility to oppose it and to join arm in arm with the people of the world against imperialism.
Yeah, so we're not afraid to bring our message of solidarity with People's Korea and anti-imperialism and international working class solidarity to the White House. We're not afraid to stand with the people of the world, to tell the American people who their real enemy is. But anyway, you all know that I recently published this book, Letter to Bob Avakian. And in it, I criticize Bob Avakian, the leader of the Revolutionary Communist Party, one of the Maoist communist groups, for the fact that he, I criticize him on a number of points. But one particular point that I criticize him on is his lack of solidarity with North Korea, and that some of the statements in his book about North Korea are just wrong. I decided, I figured since we're talking about North Korea here and their solidarity with Palestine, I'll read you the section from the book on Bob Avakian. I'll read you the section where I criticize Bob Avakian for his disrespect to North Korea. So I'm just going to read this to you. This is a section from my book, Letter to Bob Avakian, where I criticize Bob Avakian for some of the things he says about North Korea. So this is on page 82 of Letter to Bob Avakian. Actually, I'll start on page 81. There is logical inconsistency in how you speak about China and the USSR being routinely defamed in U.S. media, yet repeat without a thought or question the defamations of other anti-imperialist states. This inconsistency is particularly disturbing to someone like me, who sees opposing imperialism and building solidarity with the forces of global resistance as the duty of all working class people living in Western countries. In some instances, I find this inconsistency particularly glaring. For example, on page 215 of your autobiography, From Ike to Mao and Beyond, you relate this anecdote from your days working with the Black Panthers. Quote, "At that particular time, no attack came on the Black Panther National Office in Berkeley. But while we were there, some of the Panthers decided to do some political education. This was after Eldridge Cleaver, who had gone into exile, had gone to North Korea and sent back word about how great it was. And I didn't agree with this at all, because I'd done some reading on Kim Il-sung in North Korea, and I viewed Kim Il-sung, frankly, as more like a feudal monarch than having anything to do with communism or socialism. So when this Panther guy stood up in front of a packed room of people in the Panther National Office and started saying, well, Eldridge told us that Kim Il-sung is a real revolutionary, and he's more revolutionary than Mao Zedong, I just couldn't let it go. Even though I was there to do whatever it took to defend the Black Panther office if it were attacked, I had to speak up. So I said, well, I just don't agree with that. Kim Il-sung is not more revolutionary than Mao. Kim Il-sung is not really revolutionary, and North Korea is not really socialist. Kim Il-sung is not an outstanding communist leader at all, let alone a great leader like Mao. The way you flat out dismiss a country that was closely aligned with China and the Soviet Union, ruled over by a Marxist-Leninist party, facing thousands of U.S. troops on its border as having nothing to do with communism and socialism, is misinformed. You feel no need to even offer any evidence to back this up. You just assume that the reader shares the pro-imperialist bias found in U.S. media, so you repeat the standard line. I also think your memory of this particular incident may be a bit off. You say, quote, I viewed Kim Il-sung, frankly, as more like a feudal monarch. Now, the primary reason that North Korea is compared to a feudal monarchy in Western propaganda is that after Kim Il-sung's death in 1994, his son, Kim Jong-il, assumed the position as head of state, and his grandson, Kim Jong-un, now holds this position. People see this as reminiscent of the monarchical lineages and hereditary titles. The reason that Kim Il-sung's descendants have been heads of state since Kim's death is actually much more complex. The death of Kim Il-sung in 1994 came at a particularly dark moment. The Soviet Union had just dissolved. North Korea had worked very hard to develop food independence during the 1970s and 80s, which was difficult because the arable land of the Penninsula is mainly in the south. The territory above the 38th parallel is very mountainous. Regardless, food self-sufficiency was declared. However, the agricultural system of North Korea depended largely on petroleum, gasoline, to run the tractors, power, the food processing centers, etc. After the fall of the USSR, the petrodollar reigned supreme, and the DPRK was unable to purchase and import petroleum. This resulted in a horrendous food crisis in which mass deaths of malnutrition took place. North Korea refers to this period as the Arduous March, and it is clear that the United States was utilizing food and economic isolation as a weapon, with which to foment regime change. When Kim Il-sung died, the DPRK was facing the most serious attack and societal crisis it had faced since the Korean War itself. People were dying of malnutrition. The imperialists were looking for any weakness or division to exploit. Kim Jong-il's ascendancy to the leadership as the son of the founder of the Korean Workers' Party was a political statement. It was a means of preventing the ruling party from dividing and signifying that the country remained united around the revolutionary line of its founder. It sent a message to the United States that Kim Il-sung had not surrendered and that the party's new leadership would not surrender either. And this continued with Kim Jong-un. The idea that it is a monarchy or somehow a feudal society is an absurd imperialist slur. Feudalism is an economic system in which landowners and serfs produce crops in a society that functions mostly at an agrarian level of development, not industrialized. North Korea, with its huge steel mills, huge power plants, universal literacy, full electrification, satellites in orbit, and massive collective farms with modern tractors, is not feudalism by any stretch of the imagination. The population are not serfs, but industrial workers. Land-owning nobles do not extract rent from them. Alleging that an industrial society with a 20th century Marxist-Leninist political and economic model that you consider to not be sufficiently socialist and somehow revisionist is therefore feudalist is ignorant and lacks analysis from a supposed Marxist. It shows a lack of understanding of what feudalism even is and how feudalism differs from both socialism, capitalism, or, quote, revisionism. It is beneath you. It plays into the propaganda used to justify further economic isolation and threats of regime change. But what I find particularly bizarre is that this anecdote about arguing with Black Panther Party members who admired Kim Il-sung is supposed to have taken place in 1969. This was 25 years before Kim Il-sung died, and his son, Kim Jong-il, assumed the leadership of the country. So on what basis would you have calculated North Korea to be feudal at this time? The hereditary succession that is the basis for this claim had not yet taken place. During these years, North Korea's economy was strong. An article published by BBC News on August 26, 2008, under the headline, North Korea Struggles to Control Changing Economy, confirms this, explaining, quote, at one time, North Korea's centrally planned economy seemed to work well indeed. In the initial years after the creation of North Korea following World War II, with spectacular results. The mass mobilizations of the population, along with the Soviet and Chinese technical assistance and financial aid, resulted in annual growth rates estimated to have reached 20%, even 30%, in the years following the devastating 1950 to 1953 Korean War. As late as the 1970s, South Korea languished in the shadow of the economic miracle north of the border. In the West, governments fretted that communist-backed North Korea was putting the Western-backed capitalist South to shame. At the time, Kim Il-sung was only 57 years old. He had been the George Washington of Korea, leading the anti-colonial struggle against Japan and assuming the leadership of the post-war government. He had then withstood the horrendous Korean War, in which millions of his people were killed, and successfully led post-war reconstruction and rapid industrialization in the following decades. Kim Il-sung was embraced by Mao Zedong, who you admired, and he was neutral between the Soviet Union and China in their disagreements. There were strained relations with the Red Guards and Mao's wife, Jiang Qing, mobilizing protests against him, calling him a revisionist pig at one point. But for most of Mao's leadership in China, including most of the period of the Cultural Revolution, China and North Korea were on friendly terms. Mao Zedong's own son had died in the Korean War, helping drive U.S. troops back to the 38th parallel. On what basis could you possibly have dismissed Kim Il-sung as more like a feudal monarch than anything having to do with socialism and communism in 1969? Were you clairvoyant, predicting that Kim would die in 1994 and his son would assume the leading position? At the time, U.S. media dismissed North Korea in the same kinds of terms it used for other Marxist-Leninist governments. Accusations of feudalism and the particularly racist and nasty characterizations of the country did not become commonplace in U.S. media until the 1990s, most especially escalating after Bush named them as the axis of evil in 2002. Did you have the ability to look into the future and forecast that this would become one of the main central propaganda attacks on the country in the era after the fall of the USSR? In this misrecollection of an incident, you present yourself as the all-knowing white guy. You present yourself as correcting the mistaken Black Panthers who looked for inspiration to a country that had just welcomed one of their comrades who had fled into exile. To be honest, the whole anecdote and the way you present it gives me a rather negative impression of your analysis and leadership style. You make no mention of North Korea's record of solidarity, not just with the Black Panthers, but with the Irish freedom struggle, the Palestinians, the South African anti-apartheid movement, and many other anti-imperialist movements. Support that is deeply admirable. While you have declared various forces resisting U.S. imperialism around the world to be revisionist and historically outmoded, the Korean Workers' Party has a consistent policy of solidarity with all the forces that seek to break free from Western domination. I would encourage those who wish to defeat that system to look to them and their allies for inspiration and ideological guidance rather than to you. So that is the section from my book, Letter to Bob Avakian, where I call out Bob Avakian for his absurd attack on North Korea that doesn't even match the historical timeline, as you just heard. I call him out for not standing in solidarity with North Korea, for dismissing North Korea as feudal with no basis whatsoever for making that claim. Most of the book is not written in that bitter tone. I made a point of making this balanced. I praised Bob for his achievements and what he's achieved over the years. So it's complicated. It's very complicated. But that section in particular, I had to just lay into him about how he spoke about North Korea. So there you go. There you go. But yeah, folks, if folks have any more questions, for the second half of the program, we can start moving into that. So I think before we do the roll call, I guess, just because we are highlighting the solidarity of North Korea with the Palestinians, that's the theme of today. And if you're just tuning in now, scroll back, you can see all about all the stuff I've shown about that. I thought that I would put on the anthem of Heavenly Korea, that I guess the Unification Church, which are big advocates of peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. And they have, they do a lot of business in North Korea. They run like the state-run car company in North Korea. And, Reverend Sun Young Moon and Kim Il-sung became pretty good friends in the last years of Kim Il-sung's life, and they do a lot of business in North Korea. I thought that I would put on the song they just released called the Anthem of Heavenly Korea. Just to put it on here. And then after that, we'll do the roll call, and then I'll answer people's questions, and then that'll be our afternoon stream. So if you got questions, now would be the time to bring forward any questions or comments or anything you want me to comment on or react to in the second half of our program. I'm going to put on the Anthem of Heavenly Korea. The anthem of peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula. I guess this is a new song that the Unification Church just unfurled. And I guess from what I understand, Reverend Moon's widow, Mrs. Moon, she came to the United States last weekend to give a talk to all of her followers in Las Vegas. They gathered in Las Vegas, and at that talk, they released this new song, the Anthem of Heavenly Korea. So I'm going to put that on, and then from there, I will start answering people's questions. So there you go.
God found his chosen people in the eastern land of morning sun, shining brightly for the world to see. The purple rose of shower lights away. Come with people all around the world, let's unite into one. Let's achieve God's cherished desire, true love for all humanity. Unite, let's unite into one. Sing of the one heavenly Korea, of eternal peace and happiness. Those of peace now come together, far beyond the bounds of land and sea. Build for God a heavenly new world, giving joy and liberty to all. Peace ambassadors all around the world, let's unite into one. Let's achieve God's cherished desire, true peace for all humanity. Unite, let's unite into one. Sing of the one heavenly Korea, with eternal peace and happiness. Hand in hand the two Koreas, with the shining age of love and hope. From Mount Hala to Mount Betu, realizing peaceful unity. Come with people, the beacon of humanity, let's unite into one. Let's achieve God's cherished desire, a heavenly unified world. Unite, let's unite into one. Sing of the one heavenly Korea, with eternal peace and happiness.
So there you go. There you go. An Anthem of Heavenly Korea. Just had to play something, so there we go. All right, folks, names and locations, names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Names and locations, names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations, names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? We'll just call folks out as we see them. If anyone has any more questions for the second half of our program, now would be the time to send them. I've got one from Gallon that I'll respond to. Jenny in Cincinnati is with us. Shout out to Jenny Lynn. Jenny Lynn is a beloved member of our community. Rupert Fellows in England. Dent, UK. Dent. Mexico, Saviero Fauliani. Welcome. Welcome, Saviero. Meredith and Quinn from Washington. Alex from Brazil. San Diego County. Johnny Bravo. Patch in Arizona. Ottawa, Canada. Work in progress. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Ian Chester from England. A lot of UK folks today. This is a great time to stream with UK folks. Doc in New York. Welcome, Doc. Glad you're watching. Names and locations. We got anyone on the Rumble? Yes, we got Christopher Gopher in Texas. And we got Boris in Illinois. They're on the Rumble. Very good. Toey in Sweden. Welcome, Toey. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. I will call you all out as I see you. Anybody on the Rockfin? Yes. Ted Sawyer in England tipped $2. Well, thank you, Ted. No question or anything, but thank you for your tip, Ted, in England. This is a great time for European folks. We got Jeff in the United Kingdom. Very, very good. Good to have you, Jeff. Very, very good. Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. We got Fakio from Montreal, right? Very go. Fakihio. Very, very good. Good to have you. Names and locations. Names and locations. Anybody else? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Names and locations. Names and locations. Who is with us? Names and locations. I will keep calling people out as I see them. I've got one super chat to answer. And so, yeah, names and locations. If anyone has anything else they want me to answer, now is the time to make the call, because if not, I've only got one question to answer, and I'm going to have to end the program. And then we won't get to hear from me until 10 p.m. tonight. So if you got any last minute questions you want me to ask, we're approaching the 1 hour mark for the show. Now would be the time. Now would be the time. Rumble rants, super chats, whatever you want me to talk about. This is your chance. This is your opportunity to ask me what to talk about. We just did a stream on DPRK, solidarity with Palestine. Had a lot to show you. And there you go. There you go. Names and locations, folks. Names and locations. Who is with us tonight? Any other names and locations? If not, I guess the one super chat I have is from Gallon. And Gallon says he gets tired of hearing Palestinians are anti-Semitic. You know, it is ridiculous, some of the shit we've been hearing. Right? I mean, the allegation is that anyone who waves a Palestinian flag is supporting the killing of civilians, Meanwhile, Israel kills civilians in Palestine all the time. But that just happens, and that anyone can wave an Israeli flag. That just means they're proud of their heritage. They stand with Israel. But if you wave a Palestinian flag, you are supporting killing children, and you're a bad person. And this is utterly ridiculous. And Palestinians are anti-Semitic. They're against their occupier, right? They are against their occupier. They are against the fact that they are occupied, that they are being oppressed. That's what they're against. So there we go. I mean, and there are many Jews around the world that have stood with Palestine. Jews like Max Blumenthal, Jews like Norman Finkelstein. So there you go. See, there's a few more names. Balthazar in Oakland, Nina in Kansas City, both loved members of our community. Are there any right-wingers who are not supporting Zionist supremacy? Kim Iverson. She has taken a very strong pro-Palestine stance. It's kind of amazing to watch. Kim Iverson has taken a very, very pro-Palestine stance. She is fully in support of the Palestinians. Her program has been critical of Israel and its crimes. I have been impressed, very, very impressed with Kim Iverson and the way her program has been presenting itself. So there's that. And then also, I continue. I talked about this on the stream last night. I will talk about it again because it is interesting. I mean, there's nothing else to say about it except it's interesting. But there was this horrendous doxing truck, right? That I don't know if people saw this, but at Harvard University, the pro-Israel forces have a truck, and they are driving around with the faces and names of all the students that support the Palestinians to try and destroy their reputations. Cancel culture. All right. And they're just driving around the campus, humiliating college students who support Palestine. Well, you know who has spoken up against this? Candace Owens and Vivek Ramaswamy. Both of them have condemned this loudly. Both of them support Israel, but they also don't think this is cool. And they say, look, you know, I think the way Candace Owens said, oh, I did some stupid things when I was in college. I used to be pro-choice or whatever. That this is not right. And that impresses me that, you know, we have the Zionists engaging in cancel culture, trying to destroy the reputations of every single Harvard University student who dared disagree with Israel. But then we have, at the same time, we have two pro-Israel conservatives who say this is cancel culture and it's wrong. And that is certainly admirable. And that it's true that among many conservatives, there is not the pro-Israel stand. Now, what they call Conservatism Inc. or Conservatainment, Ben Shapiro, Fox News, has just been endlessly pro-Israel. But beneath the surface, many conservatives in America don't agree. While the official bastions of conservatism, the official conservative voices, are saying one thing, beneath the surface, read the comment sections. Many conservatives are not going along with the pro-Israel stance. And that is worth highlighting. So there's that. I'm worried about the anti-war movement. And I've said that repeatedly on these streams. I reached out to Angela McCurdle, the chair of the Libertarian Party, reached back to Nick Brana. I know he's probably with family or something. You know, I'll hear back from him soon, I'm sure. But we need to preserve the anti-war movement. We absolutely need to preserve the anti-war movement, despite the fact that many of the anti-war voices on the right have dropped the ball. I will say the Libertarian Party has taken a good stance, too. They're not cheering for Palestine, but they are saying cut off all aid to Israel. And they're not condemning the Palestinians either. And so I'm impressed with that. And it seems that in the Mises caucus, the Libertarian Party, there are some forces that seem to understand things. But I will say, you know, at the end of the day, the only thing that will really help the Palestinians is for Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela and all the anti-imperialist countries to grow stronger in the world, to have more influence in the Middle East and have more influence. And that is the road to liberation for the Palestinian people, is the rise of the anti-imperialist bloc. That is the road to liberation. Period. I mean, there's not more to it than that. And there's only one force in this country that's saying that, and that is the Center for Political Innovation. We are the only ones that seem to say what the real answer, the real answer to the crisis is. Right? We have the obvious answer to the Palestine crisis, which is the rise of anti-imperialism. Anti-imperialism needs to rise. We are having our national convention in Portland, Oregon. It is going to be an epic show. Scott Ritter is going to be there. Garland Nixon's going to be there. Jyoti Brar of the Communist Party of Great Britain, Marxist-Leninist, is going to be there. It appears that David Rovics is going to be performing music. He's going to be there. It also appears that our great friend Nick Brana of the People's Party is going to be there. It's going to be an epic all-day anti-imperialist rally in Portland, Oregon. And we are the only force that is putting forward the rational message here, that the way out of this crisis, the way out of the danger of a new world war, the way out of the emerging low-wage police state, the way out is building up an anti-imperialist bloc in America. And the working class will lead this bloc because they are the majority and they're the greatest class in all of history. But we must build an anti-imperialist united front, an anti-imperialist bloc in America to align itself with the new economy that is emerging around the world, led by Russia and China and Iran and Venezuela and Cuba and you know, all the countries that are broken out of imperialism. That is our message. We are not bomb throwers. We are not advocates of chaos. We are advocates of stability. And we say the road to stability in America, the road to a new America, is through the new emerging economy the new emerging economy centered around Russia and China, that is the road forward for America. So there we go. If you want to help us put on this important conference, we need all the support we can get. We're a little nervous about getting all the money together. I'll be honest with you. We are a little bit nervous about making this conference happen. We're starting to have a little bit of anxiety about whether we'll have the funds to do it the way we want to do it, but we're going to figure this out. We're figuring it out, but we're a little bit nervous about it. So any support you can give us to make sure that 2023 ends with an epic anti-imperialist conference, there you go. What nation do you think is going to lead the anti-imperialist bloc? Saviero, I don't like to play favorites. I support all anti-imperialist countries. It's not a question of leading, right? There are bigger countries in the bloc. There are smaller countries in the bloc. And that this is what the imperialists would like to do. They would like us to say, oh, well, we're with this country. We're with Russia. We're not with China. Or we're with China. We're not with Russia. We're with People's Korea, but we're not with Iran. Don't play that game, Saviero. That's not the way to look at it. That is not the way to look at it. My feeling is that we need to support all anti-imperialist states. We need to support trade between all anti-imperialist states, and we need to not play favorites, because if I were to just answer that and say, oh, I think China should lead, how do you think the Russians would feel? If I said Russia should lead, how do you think the Chinese would feel? If I said the Koreans should lead, how do you think the other people would? That's not the way we should frame questions, Saviero. I'm just telling you, as much, I know that's not what you meant. I know it's not what you meant, but I've had enough experience. I'm not saying you're a bad person for asking the question. Right? I know you asked that with pure intentions, but I'm telling you that in my experience, the way the internet works is I say that, I answer that, and I say, oh, I think this country is vital or whatever. And then that gets clipped, and then somebody takes that back to another country, and that's how the internet works. The algorithms are designed to make people fight, and if you give anything to the algorithms, they will use it that way. Saviero, I know you didn't mean that. I know you didn't mean anything bad by asking that, but I'm just telling you why I can't answer the question the way you're asking me, is because that will be interpreted as a diss to every country I don't name. If I pick one anti-imperialist state and I name them, even though I will just be telling you my thoughts as a geopolitical analyst, that will be interpreted as a diss to all the other anti-imperialist states, Saviero. And it's unfortunate. That's the way the internet works. Look, there is a toxic culture that has been created online, right? From BreadTube to the internet libertarian crowd to Jackson Hinkle and Haas and all of that. There is a toxic internet culture that is against building anything in real life. That just wants to get on the internet and fight with people and all of that. And we have to do our best to not play into the hands of people whose job it is to create discord among anti-imperialist communities, right? And that unfortunately, Saviero, I mean, even though it's a fair question, and I would answer that in person with you, if we were sitting over coffee, I could answer that one way. But we have to remember that there are people, not consciously, there are forces that look for any opportunity to jump on something I've said and use it to create discord, Saviero. And we've seen that endlessly, right? Endlessly. And it causes me a huge amount of stress. It seems like every day I have to be worried about which anti-imperialist hates me now. Somebody who agrees with me on everything. Somebody who agrees with me on Russia and China and Palestine and all of that, who we should be getting along with each other, is mad at me and thinks I'm no good and is dumping on me on social media because somebody in their audience incited them, or they don't agree with me about this or whatever. And it's a toxic state of affairs. And that's why I would like to not be online anymore, or I would like to have these streams be restricted for people in our community who actually share our values. Because I would like to, if this was just private, Saviero, if this was for CPI members and allies and stuff, I could answer that question off the top of my head. Oh, I think this country, but I can't answer that in the atmosphere that's been created by the toxically online community. I can't do it. And that sucks. That absolutely sucks, Saviero. And that's why, we need to figure out how we can start focusing on building an in real life organization and get away from the online organizing. I love connecting with all of you, and we will continue to have streams constantly to connect with members, but they shouldn't be before the public, because that allows our enemies to go in there and create discord, which is what they've done, right? And if I answer that, right, that'll be that'll be used against me, unfortunately, Saviero. And that's what I'm telling you. The chronically online communities are toxic. Out of the movement to the masses, off the internet to the masses. We need to build a mass organization. That's why we're building a mega anti-imperialist rally in Portland, Oregon. We are building a mega anti-imperialist rally in real life. We're going to fill that venue, that auditorium. We've got it reserved. It holds 250 people. We are going to fill that space. We are going to fill the space. We are going to make sure we have a mega anti-imperialist rally. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be absolutely awesome. It's going to be great. So there you go. There you go. And if you want to help us support it, you can do it down below. I will be back tonight at 10 p.m. It's been a fun afternoon stream. So be in touch, everybody. I will see you all tonight at 10 p.m. I'm going to put on the closing music. Yeah, we're doing 2 streams a day. So we did an afternoon stream. It was great. Palestine, DPRK, solidarity. And we're going to be doing another stream. We're going to be doing another stream late at night. So there we go. In the struggle against U.S. imperialism is now emerging throughout the world. Ever since World War II, U.S. imperialism and its followers have been continuously launching wars of aggression. But the people of various countries have been continuously waging revolutionary wars to defeat their aggression. While the danger of a new world war still exists, and the people of all countries must get prepared, revolution is the main trend in the world today.